Hello, this is Patrick with Royas, and today I'll be teaching you how to make an inventory system in Godot using C#. So first things first is we're going to go here and create an item list node. So item list, okay, and then we're going to change some settings on this item list. So first things we're going to do is allow allow right button select, which is this one. Let me see if I can expand this out. I don't think I can because I'm so zoomed in on Godot. I'm going to turn allow search off. I'm going to turn auto height on. I'm going to go to columns and set max columns to 4. Same column width on. And then fixed column width, I'm going to turn to 55 pixels. Okay, now I'm going to go down to icon here and set the icon mode to top. And that's and fixed icon size. I'm going to set those to 50 pixels each. Now I'm going to go down here to layout and then go to transform and set the size to be 253 pixels by 414. So this is the inventory size I found that works with 20 items with the sizes that I've chosen. You can obviously choose different sizes for your own needs or whatever your game is. But this is just what I'm doing for the tutorial, where I've picked 20 items arbitrarily. Okay, so now I'm going to go and add a script to this. So new script. I'm going to call this inventory.cs and create. Okay, now that we're in the inventory script, let's go over and export a couple things. So I'm going to export the inventory size, which will be 20, as I said, but just so that if you had a dev change it later to play around with some numbers. I'm also going to export a texture 2D and call this blank icon, because the inventory list, if you don't have like an icon in there, it will collapse the row for you. And now we'll go down to the bottom here and go public class item, and we'll make a custom class for the item. Okay, so what we're going to put into this class is we're going to have a public int ID. And so the ID is just so that if you had like a database, you could look up your item stats and stuff like that. Public string name, a public texture 2D icon, a public int max quantity. So that's just the maximum amount that you'll be able to carry of that specific item in a single slot. And then we'll have a public int quantity. So the current amount that you have. Okay, now let's scroll back up to the top and create an array of those items. So private item, and then make an array. And then we'll call this items. Now we'll set items equal to new item, and then we will say the inventory size, and that'll be the size of the items array. Now we'll loop through the inventory, and we will just add items. So let's do that right now. Inventory size, we will use that. Add item. And what we will do is we will just set the text to a space so that doesn't collapse. And then we will set the blank icon as well. Okay, now what we will do is we need to delete this. We're not going to use that for this tutorial. We're going to have a function to add inventory items. To do that, what we'll do is go public pool, so we can access this function from outside of the inventory. Inventory item, and then this will take in an item, and we will call that item. Super fancy. Okay, now we'll say if item is equal to null or item dot quantity is less than or equal to 0, whoops, equal to 0, we'll return false. That's just, a safety check. Nothing special there. Okay, so now we'll go down here and make another function before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So there's two types of items. You don't want to be able to stack swords in your inventory, but you would want to be able to stack arrows. So what I'm going to do is have a function for stackable items, and that'll just get called if the quantity is higher than 1, or the maximum quantity is higher than 1. So private bool, because we don't want anything else to call this, we'll say add stackable items, or item, and then we will take in item, just like that. Okay, so we'll make a bool called could pick up, and we'll set this to false. Now we'll loop through, so we'll go for, and then items dot length, and then we'll say if items I is equal to null, we will continue, because then it can't stack onto nothing. Then we will say if items I dot ID doesn't equal item dot ID, or items I dot quantity is greater than or equal to items I dot max quantity. So if the stack's full, then we'll continue. Now we'll say if items I dot quantity plus item dot quantity is greater than items I dot max quantity, we will do this. So this way, if it'll fill up the stack, but there'll be extras left over, it'll continue on to place the extras elsewhere. So we'll make a variable called amount to remove, and we'll set that equal to items I dot quantity, or dot max quantity, minus items I dot quantity. So that's the amount that we should remove from the current stack of items that we're trying to add. So we'll go items I dot quantity is equal to items I dot max quantity. So we'll just set it to the maximum. Okay, so now item dot quantity is equal to item dot quantity minus the amount to remove. I'm just writing it out. I can write it out shorter than this, but this is just to make it more obvious what it's doing for the video. So now I'll say the could pick up is equal to true, and then I will set item text. So now we'll set the text to say at position I in the item list, we'll say the items I dot quantity dot to string. So now this is just setting the text so that it'll say the number of items that we have. And then we'll continue so that it'll keep looking for more stacks to fill. Okay, so now we'll say below here, we'll go int amount to remove again. Oh, I'll just change this to AMT. AMT item, wow. Item dot quantity. Okay, now, oh wait, why do I even have this? I don't think I need this line. Items I dot quantity is equal to item dot quantity plus items I dot quantity. And then we'll just set the item dot quantity equal to 0. Now we have to just copy this line again up here to set the stuff, and then we'll just return true. And now outside of the loop here, we will return could pick up. This way, it'll know, even if you can't place all the arrows or whatever into your inventory, it'll still know that you could pick them up, even if you can't pick them all up. Okay, now let's go back here. Now we'll have the bool could pick up here, and then we'll set this equal to add stackable item, and then we'll just pass an item to that, and we'll say if item dot quantity is equal to 0, we will return. Ah, wow. True. Wow. I cannot type today or any day. Okay, now we will do another loop here. And so then now this will be trying to place the item into an empty inventory space. So we'll do inventory size here, and then we'll say if items I does not equal null, then we'll continue. So we're looking for an empty inventory space here. So items I is equal to item. Easy enough. Then we'll set the item count or item icon, set item icon, and we'll set the item icon at the position of I. Since the items array and the items list, they will be matching, and we'll say item dot icon. So we'll set it to the icon. We will then go if item dot max quantity is greater than 1. So we don't really want to say that like we just have one sword in our inventory if they can't stack. So that wouldn't really make sense. Whereas if we have arrows, we want to know how many arrows we have. So we'll just say if the item max quantity is greater than 1, we will set item text, and we will set that to, or set I to, well, I guess we can just paste that line we had earlier, which I still have in my clipboard. And perfect, there we go. So now we can add items to our inventory. Oh, no, wait. This is the return to true. True. This is the return could pick up. Okay, now we want to be able to remove items and get items from our inventory. So let's scroll down here and do the public void remove inventory item. And we will set we'll take in an int for the index that we will remove at. We will now check the index to see if it's a viable index. So we'll say if index is less than 0 or index is greater than or equal to item, or yeah, we'll just say inventory size. Then we will return null. Oh, I should also make this, no, I'll just return. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm thinking right now. Okay, so now I'll say items at the position of index. We will set that to null. We will set the icon, set item icon at position index, and we will set that to blank icon. And we'll do the same with the text. Set item text at position index, and then we will just set that to space like we did before. Now we'll do a function to get the inventory item. So we'll go public item get inventory item, and we will do the same thing. We'll take in an int for the index that we will be getting it from. I am just going to copy this line up here to check to see if the index is a viable index, and we will return null instead. And now I will return items index, and there we go. So now we've got that going. So I wanted to make it so that the items in our inventory will just like when you click them, say you left click them, it'll just tell you what item is there and how much of it. And like when you right click it, it'll drop the item. So let's go and do that right now, just to prove like that the inventory system works, kind of as a test and an example how to do this. Okay. So I will say private void on inventory item clicked, and we will take in a long index. This is just because the Godot documentation is wrong. We are going to be hooking up to a signal, and it says that this is an int in the Godot documentation. It's actually a long. So I spent some time messing with that earlier. Okay, now we'll also take in a vector2, and we'll take in a position there, and then we'll take in another long, and we'll call this one mouse button index. Okay, so if the mouse button index is equal to 2, well then that is a right click. So we'll want to drop on a right click. So we'll say item is equal to get inventory item. And we've got our index here, so we'll just say index, but it's not going to be happy because this is a long instead of an int, so we'll just cast it to an int. Easy enough fix. Now we'll say if item is equal to null, we will just print out gd.print no item here. So we now know that that space is empty, and we will return. Now we'll remove item, remove inventory item, and that will be at index again. So now I'll print out gd.print you dropped item dot quantity of item dot name. Yeah, so we'll just say that we dropped that amount of items, blah, blah, blah. So now we'll say else if mouse button index is equal to 1, and this is a left click, we'll say item is equal to, actually, I'll just copy this. I'm lazy. Okay, copy that, and I'll actually copy this part too. You know what? Let's save some time for the tutorial. And then we'll just print out what that item was. So we'll say gd.print you clicked item.name, and there is a total of item.quantity of them. Perfect. Okay, so now our inventory system should be done. I'm just going to quickly build this to make sure that there's no errors. And we also will be able to use the inspector. Okay, there was just a Godot error. I'm not really sure what that was about, but okay. Now I'm going to just drag in this blank icon into here, run it again, and you can see we've got all these empty inventory spots and nothing's happened. Oh, because I forgot to set up the signal. Item clicked plus equals on inventory item clicked. Okay, now let's run this again and test it. No item here, and I'm right clicking and left clicking. Perfect. Okay, now let's add some buttons to add some items to our inventory to test things. So to do that, I'm just going to go button. I'm just going to put some text in here, sword. The proper way to say it. I'm just going to put that over here. Call this sword. Control D. Arrows 3. So arrows 3. This is going to add 3 arrows, and then I am going to do arrows 5. Enter. And this is going to add 5 arrows, so that we'll have some odd and even numbers that we can work with. Okay, so now I'm going to make a script, and I'm just going to call this script item. New script, add item. There we go. Yeah, that works for me. And I'm going to go and attach this script to all of these. This is just for testing purposes again. Okay, now let's export some stuff. So I'm going to export the class inventory. I know that's not how people in Godot usually like to do it, but this is just for testing, so it's a temporary thing. So export int ID. We're just going to export all the fields that are part of the item, and we're going to construct an item on these classes. String, name, export, texture 2D, item, icon, export, max quantity. Oh, int. Oops. And then last export, export int quantity. Okay. Now I am going to get rid of this function. Now I'm going to make a private void add new item, and we're going to have item is equal to new item, and this will be ID is equal to ID. Whoops, not ID is equal to ID. Name is equal to name. Icon equal to icon, or item icon. Item icon. Yeah, there we go. Max quantity is equal to max quantity. And quantity is equal to quantity. Who would have guessed? Okay. Now we will say inventory dot add inventory item. There we go. Now we'll just set this up to, or connect this to the signal. So I'll go pressed plus equals add item. Oh, okay, it doesn't like this, so I'm just gonna go like that. There we go. We're gonna add the new item. Okay, so now let's go back to Godot and run it to get the inspector's stuffs. Okay, sword, inventory, I'm gonna assign that. Arrows, inventory, I'm gonna assign. And arrows, I'm gonna change this to arrows 5. Inventory, I'm going to assign that. Okay, now, sword item ID is gonna be 0. Item name is gonna be sword. Item icon is going to be this sword icon I've got here. Max quantity is going to be 1, and quantity is going to be 1. Now, arrow item ID is going to be 1. Name arrow. Item icon is going to be arrow. And the max quantity is going to be 10. And the quantity here is going to be 3. Now, item ID 1. Arrow. Item icon is going to be the arrow. Max quantity 10. This is redundant, I know, but it's just for testing. Okay. So now that should be good to go. Let's see if this works. So let's add the sword. Perfect. Click the sword. You clicked a sword, and there's a total of 1 of them. Perfect. I'm going to drop the sword. You dropped 1 of the sword. Perfect. Okay, now let's add a sword back, and let's add 3 arrows. Perfect. Let's add 5 arrows. Okay, let's add 5 more arrows. Let's drop these arrows and see if it fills in this slot here. It did it wrong. No, it did it correct, actually. It was supposed to go to these. Never mind. So our inventory system works. Let's go. All right. Hopefully you found that this helped. Yeah. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.